218 pounds, he is the great Greg Gagne.
Hey, what's up? It's a Tuesday, and it is time to talk some straight talk with the boss. That is Magnum TA, and we're with Greg Gagne. Magnum, how are you today? Happy Tuesday to you.
I am barreling into the week, ready for you guys.
Hey, no better way to do it because we're also live with Greg Gagne. Greg, how are you?
Well, you know, straight talk gets me in trouble. I got a lot of trouble at home this week. I got the whole family up my butt right now.
Uh-oh. Well, let's bring some heat onto the show here today. You can channel that over into pro wrestling a little bit. We're live on the fourhorsemannetwork.com or on onetruesporttv.com. So be sure to give us a shout out. Be sure to like, subscribe. Make sure you support the show in that manner. We'll do some other plugs here coming up here later on. I want to give a shout out to some folks in the chat. Triple E, ATF Media, CB is a regular in here. Eddie Prather's here. Charlie's in the house. So
Hey,
good
Charlie.
to hear from everybody here, and excited to get to interact with you guys. If you have some questions, be sure to chime on in. I'll keep my eyes peeled and see what we can do when it comes to that. I did also have some screenshot questions here that we'll address from last week as well. But first, I guess let's talk a little bit of what's going on in the world of wrestling. I didn't talk about this with you guys off air yet, but Magnum, you might know these guys a little bit better than Greg, considering they're AEW guys. But there was the release of, or the reported exits of Malachi Black, who was also known as Aleister Black in WWE, then Miro, Rusev in WWE, and then Ricky Starks is now apparently no longer with the company. And now we haven't seen any of those guys in a long time on AEW, but did want your thoughts on those types of talents, Magnum, and if you have any perspective on that.
Well, I think it'll be, yet another opportunity for WWE to pick up some guys and showcase them and show them how you do it. And that Ricky Starks kid has got unbelievable potential for what could be done with them. I mean, big, tall, in shape guy, get on the mic, get in the ring. I mean, he's just been, something waiting to happen in my estimation. And Malachi Black is I mean, he would fit right in with so many scenarios in WWE land. I mean, his wife's there, of course, but I mean, he just, he would fit right in any dark story you wanted to interject him in, like just immediately. So yeah, I thought that was. I mean, it wasn't shocking because again, you can see where they're not using people on television.
Right.
We can all read the tea leaves, but yeah, the WWE's making spots obviously on their roster too. Moving, shuffling the deck, moving people around, and it's so much television to keep people vested in storylines and people. It's still difficult to do that with, but so many people. And I remember vividly when the Jim Crockett Promotions had 200 wrestlers on the roster, and keeping all those people in the middle of something hot and they were doing that to generate arena business, and they were running 3 towns a night doing big business. But it's very, very hard to get that many people continually on the tip of people's tongues and talking points, and intrigue about what's coming next. So
Yeah.
Not to interrupt you, but a question for you. When you had a card, how many matches did you usually have on? I mean, with that many guys, how did you keep everybody going? Did they have 3 or 4 towns running a night?
yeah, so I mean, it would be, I mean, nothing to have 8 to 10 matches on a card.
Wow. How long would the shows run then? Typically, a live show.
Probably 3 hours.
Really? Okay. Wow. Okay. So like people always like poo on the 3-hour shows, but they were going around pretty regularly back then too.
It was every match was a main event match. I mean, we
Yeah.
didn't have any curtain jerkers. So,
Yeah.
So it was. I mean, the momentum would build through the night, and of course you had your deals where Flair was involved and had a lot of long matches. I mean, my average match was probably 20 to 30 minutes in an arena. Typically in a main event type scenario, if it was with Flair, or for something we built up, it was obviously going to be 45 minutes to an hour. But everybody, I don't think anybody ever had under 15, 20 minutes, for their match, even in the early matches. So.
Wow, man, how about that?
See, the AWA, we had 4 to 6 matches on the card, and we'd run at about 2 hours.
Okay.
So you didn't need 200 guys. I mean, God Almighty, I don't know how you kept them all paid.
If you seen our parking lot on a TV taping interview day, you'd see a sea of Porsches and Corvettes and Mercedes Benz, and I mean, it was like $21 million that year in paid arena attendance or something. I mean, and Jim paid well, so he kept everybody anxious to, and of course, you were anxious to have your thing take on so much intrigue you could move up and be in that main event spot, because obviously you made more money the higher you were off the card.
Right. Well, that's the thing too with these release stars, and you mentioned it, Magnum, and the roster is so big on both shows, on AEW and on WWE. It's just how do they position and move talents around? It's and especially in the WWE ecoscape, because they have these brands where it's SmackDown, you have Raw, then you have NXT, now you have Evolve coming into play, you have independent roster stars with the WEID program. So there's a lot of moving parts that you can implement, different talents all over the place. So, but to your point, somebody like an Aleister Black, he was Aleister Black in WWE, like I said, and here his entrance, boom. It was awesome. If you don't remember it in NXT, go check it out, guys, because it was amazing back then, and you can really elevate that up. Kind of a question too I wanted to ask when it comes to these releases. I always find it fascinating because when Triple H gets a hold of these AEW guys, he puts them in the right light, of what we've been expecting and wanting out of somebody Penta, for example. Look at the.
Well, that's because she was part of it, always been a part of it.
Yeah.
You have somebody that's not been in the ring, hasn't competed in the ring or been around wrestling except watching it, and now they're going to call the shots. They don't have it, and Triple H surrounded himself with a lot of really great minds. And that's how you put everything together. You bounce things off each other, and then you develop, the angle, the card, the whole thing. And as far as I know, and maybe I'm totally wrong, down at AEW, it's just one guy making all the decisions. You have to have one guy make the decision, but you need a board around you that, and a lot of times when you get wrestlers in there that are still competing, they're only thinking about how they can get themselves over and into a situation or an angle, rather than, people that aren't involved in it but have been. They see the bigger picture. Right. If that makes any sense.
No, it makes plenty of sense, man. It makes a lot of sense because Triple H, and we've talked about this plenty of times on this show, is Tony Khan has not been able to delegate. It's just he takes it all on his shoulders and, okay, I'm handling this and this. And sure, he gets some outside perspective. And he even said on a recent interview that he gets a lot of input, creative input, but he only takes about 10 or 20% of it. Well, the issue that Tony Khan doesn't delegate. And it's Triple H seems to know how to delegate and handle certain things that he's capable of handling, but then giving the responsibility to other people on his team. And so I think that creates a great kind of ecoscape, and what we're seeing is reaping results for WWE right now. It's a fascinating thing, and I'm excited to see what he's gonna maybe do with somebody I know he loves Aleister Black, but I'm really excited to see what he does with somebody like a Ricky Starks or anything like that too, because Magnum, like you said too, he's got a good vibe to him.
I'd love to see what he would do with Ricochet as a heel.
Oh my gosh!
Because I mean, he's landed in a lane that is probably going to, get him, out of that uncomfortable position he was in before, trying to figure out what his character was to be like. And I mean, I think he's going to be a hot heel.
Yeah.
And so I mean, he went there and kind of found himself. Not the way probably anybody envisioned, but he's an example of somebody that got over there, got in a different pool, and all of a sudden found out he had something else in his bag of tricks he didn't know he had.
That's it. And you know what, too? It's like he's somebody that has benefited from like the jump to AEW, but another like the Hurt business or the Hurt Syndicate now. They just, they had the faction going on for a couple years, but it was cut short in a lot of people's eyes, I think. And so now they just look like ultimate badass tag team and faction in AEW. It's just, how are they going to keep? Is AEW the booking machine? Is that going to keep it up? Is Tony Khan going to keep those balls up in the air where it's just like make these guys feel like a big deal and continue to make them feel like?
You have to have one guy make the final decision, and guess that's Tony Khan. But he should have input from people really that aren't in the ring right now. I mean, you got Shawn Michaels down there. I'm sure he has his nose in there helping because he's got a great mind for the business.
Yep.
And some of the others he's surrounded himself with, and they feed the ideas. He takes them all together, and then he formulates it and puts it out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the way it works the best.
Exactly. You got to find that good kind of balance where, like, yeah, you're still a boss. You make the final decision and stuff like that, but you give other people responsibilities, or they can help with the creative input and the process of it all.
Well, what about Seth Rollins' comment about there wasn't anybody over there on WWE level?
Wow, that's right.
Was that strong? I don't know if that was a half-ass shoot or if he really felt that way, or was just trying to be in a heel. But granted, Edge and Christian aren't the same Edge and Christian of 10, 15 years ago, but they're still masterful, storytellers, and Dean Ambrose still can tell a pretty good story. So they got some people there that, the right light could definitely still, swing for the fences and knock one out of the park if given the right. So I thought that was a little brash.
Little bit. It's the funny thing is too, is because I think about like when NXT and AEW went head to head back in like 2019, and Triple H made the reference of like a pissant company kind of thing, and then you have the aspect where AEW ultimately, like during that time, was improved and got was more the engaging show, and then NXT was cut short. Vince pulled NXT out from under Triple H a little bit, but now the tide has turned. Triple H is in control. He's got more free reign, obviously, with Vince gone, and so him being like, well, I have these. This is what their AEW has done wrong with some of these talents, like a Cody Rhodes or a Jade Cargill or Penta. I'm going to take them and I'm going to put them in a different light. And it's almost like I always think about like Tom Brady having a chip on his shoulder because he was drafted so late. And it's just like I think Triple H might have a little bit of that mentality when it comes to getting some of these stars over here. You know what I mean?
He's old school. I mean, just like when in the mid 80s when we were going head to head with WWE before the Monday Night Wars and all that stuff, we were all very competitive, like we were on a national squad team, going head to head with our adversaries. And that rivalry creates all kinds of magic when people are really fired up to go out there and tear the house down. Particularly when we book head to head, we both be in the same town the same night, 2 buildings sold out. And some of them, how could there be that many wrestling fans in one geographic area and sell out 2 buildings and, marketably different products? And, that was always Dusty's deal. He used that Oakland Raider phrase of having pride in your product. And I mean, we had locker room talks like if we were going out there to kill somebody in a blooming gladiator war or something. And everybody was in on it. I mean, it was down with it, so it was fun.
Yeah, man, the competitive atmosphere is what elevates everything. Like if you have competition, like you got to feel like I'm going to do better than that other company or that other guy. It doesn't matter, it's just like certain things. it definitely makes things much more interesting. So, did want to get to this question because Eddie Prather paid for it. So, thank you, Eddie. He says, question for Greg Magnum. Do you think if the AWA and JCP had invested in merchandise as extra revenue in the 1980s, like the WWF did, do you think it would have helped either promotion? What do you think, Greg, for AWA?
Well, yeah, we had some merchandise, the T-shirts and stuff, but back then, merchandise wasn't a big thing. Like now, I mean, like we got the action figure. Vern came out with those action figures. Remco came to him, and that was really about the first merchandising that we did. Vern, way back in the 50s. In fact, his book just came out, and it talks about that. Back in the 50s, he could see what merchandise did. He had the first wrestling game.
Board game.
Oh, yeah. And back in the 50s. And then he had his vitamins. He had protein power pack. He had the 3 Ps for the kids. He had, he really knew how to market himself, which at that time nobody did. And he took advantage of it. And when you read his book, you go through all that. And today, I mean, the WWE, they probably make merchandise more money than they do in the wrestling.
It's crazy.
Or as much as.
Right.
It really is. But they've done a great job, and they've elevated their talent. They're better known than any of the football players or baseball players or basketball players out there. When you put the whole group up there.
Yeah, yeah. Magnum, how about Crockett with the merchandise? I know you guys have fair share.
Yeah, that totally missed the boat, but that wasn't the thing that really hurt the needle. They were running it, tight knit, family owned promotion, been in business over 50 years, blah 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 blah, and they needed outside the box thinking people to look at the product and say, hey, all these characters you have, they're all, these are all things that could be licensed and done so much with, and opening doors for Dusty and myself and Rick and just being involved in other genres like on the Tonight Show or here making appearances, making it bigger than the in the ring, historical experience. And then this was on the cusp of that and saw that and took it global, and it was like, because we were so kayfabe and so embracing of protecting still the business, we'd have probably been on a talk show and killed somebody and on national television or something, and they're horrible. I mean, I could see the Raging Bull Manny Fernandez right now coming over the desk with a flying burrito on somebody. but it was just a different attitude and a different vibe. But that the merchandising and the PR and all the things that would have come from outside traditional wrestling resources is what it took to make it a global thing. I mean, Hogan being in that movie was with Stallone, elevated him to to a different perception, a different audience, a whole bunch of people that never tuned in and watched the wrestling show. And people like personalities. I mean, it's no different than if there's probably some great personalities out there on the football field that never get an opportunity to talk into a mic, and might be a real ham, might be really good at it, but don't ever get that opportunity. And that people like getting to know the characters and what they like, what they don't like, and then you sell you something because, hey, I like same thing he likes.
Yeah.
So missed opportunities all the way around.
Sure. It was a different time too with the merchandise, because now everybody gets a wrestling. I got a wrestling t-shirt on right now, and it's just like, that's kind of how it's more accessible, and the stars are there, and it's like the merchandise sales are clearly a lot of the times what motivates booking and creative decisions. Like Jey Uso,
not a lot of the time, all the time.
Yeah,
you're not going to take a guy that's your number one merch seller, whether you think it's time to change streams or not, cut your daggone your cash flow off. That'd be idiotic.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure that played heavily into Roman Reigns, you know,
Absolutely.
In that long run, because that he was hotter than he was the hottest thing going, and concurrently, Cody has picked up the ball and done the same thing as a champion. They saw those weight belts and stuff and everything.
Oh God, those belts, yeah.
Yeah, and Jey Uso now with all the Yeet shirts,
Yeah.
and then you got CM Punk. It's just like there's a reason that they're up there and stuff.
Well, and it's no different. It was NASCAR back in the day. It was the same thing. It's all about merchandising and marketing. You don't think when those guys reeled out of their car after winning a 400-mile race and they had to spit off all these names of people like that, all that. If you couldn't do that, you might not end up in the winner's circle as many times as you'd like to either.
That's it. You're not. They handed Pepsi. You got to drink that Pepsi while you're on camera too.
Exactly.
Yep.
and my dad was really, I guess, really ahead of his time, because in the early 50s, reading the book, he was more popular than Stan Musial and Crazy Legs Hirsch, who were big in that area. And then as he came in and got in the merchandise, he got on the Tonight Show, Art Linkletter's show. He was the first one to come out with isometrics.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Doing that. And then he came out with the game and all that. And so it made him so popular that he was in demand more than any of the other guys.
Yeah.
But he knew how to merchandise himself.
Yes. Yeah.
And so then as TV got stronger and stronger, it just, he got stronger and stronger.
Yeah. And
you and I had talked earlier about the Lou Thez thing. But
sure.
Lou was, him and Vern got along, but Lou would never let him have the title.
Yeah.
He had a lot to say with the NWA and he just wouldn't. So.
Wow. How about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking to your dad's credit and everything, he was very forward thinking in a lot of things and helped move, in so many ways. He was the precursor to what WWE is, because he knew how to market things.
When the DuPont network came on, in the mid 50s,
right?
I mean, people would sit out in the streets, they would watch the TVs through the hardware stores or all the stores that they had the TVs. They'd be out in the window, and people would be standing out on the street after they closed, and they'd watch wrestling.
Yeah,
in Chicago. I mean, that's
and what a great thing for television back then, because it was episodic. It was on every week, and wrestling promotions were paying to be on it, not the other way around, because it was how the stars were made, and it was how you got people to come out to the arenas and watch those things. My earliest memories of television in the 60s, when I was in single digits, was watching wrestling with my dad, and it was black and white. On black and white TV, watching old Mid-Atlantic stuff. They were like watching the dancing dinosaurs back then. They were just they weren't the athletic guys that they became.
Yeah.
But again, it was just, that was a natural thing. On Saturday nights, everybody flicked on wrestling, see what was happening.
Hell yeah. When I met Bruno I met him one time in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. I was like, my great grandfather used to watch you on television. He's like, your great grandfather. He's like, do I feel old? He's like, thanks for telling me. And I was like, yeah. So definitely the echoes throughout the generations. Shout out to some. Oh, go ahead.
Got a question there for us?
Let's see here. I did want to some shout outs to some folks. John here says hello from Kingsport, Tennessee. Big AWA fan and NWA. So good to have you here on board here, John.
Good. Glad to have him on board.
JB, hello, Dom, Greg, and Magnum. Little Patty has joined us too. My cat is not in the house, thank goodness. I think he's sleeping. I'm not going to try to disturb him.
You didn't put him outside in the cold, did you?
No, I wouldn't. Never would do that. But so yes. Let's see what this one says. Oh, here's an interesting one. Eggsy Trek Jedi. Any thoughts on how Lou Thez and Bruno Sammartino were as pros, and if they'd get over today? Greg, let's start with you on that one. That's a pretty interesting question.
Well, they both had a slow and methodical way of delivering a match.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they would.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be, you know, if they could adapt to, I guess, speeding up the match a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when TV does a lot of, you know, they want to know what people, when they're turning the channel. You know
Right.
what the attention span of the American public is right now before they turn the channel? I
8
told you
seconds.
that before.
Oh yeah, 8 seconds.
8 seconds.
Mhm.
So, you know, unless, and when you watch wrestling today, you know, it's moving pretty fast. Boom, 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 boom. And it has to keep the attention of the public before they go click.
Yeah.
So wrestling has, you know, just gone along with it and made it a quicker and more fascinating matches than I guess they would back in that time. And to say if they could come in, I'm sure they could adapt to it, you know, because they were both good athletes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think they could.
Yeah. Magnum, what do you think?
It would depend on, it really wouldn't depend on what they're physically capable of. It would depend on their mindset.
Yeah.
So physically, they're certainly capable of, you know, doing some amazing things. But if they couldn't fast forward their brain to the audience change,
Yeah.
and the difference in society, and you know, that, to Greg's and your point, you know, the attention span thing. I think guys like that could get over in a house show, but they would be really, really, really tested to do it in a television environment.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think they could tell the story of the building that would get the people's get them, because the psychology is still the psychology,
Right.
and they could get them feeling what they were portraying, but it'd be very difficult on a television thing that's just got to be so spot on, and having to memorize a match. You know, that would be that'd be a painful thing for me.
Oh, shit, me too. I can never do that.
I mean, you know, my hat's off to them that they do that. And I've heard, you know, stars of today's, you know, some of them, you know, make little of the fact that, oh, well, you couldn't even remember a match. And I said, well, you couldn't even work if I, you know, put a gun to your head. But, you know, but, you know, that it's not a fair comparison, because it's just like being somebody who's a trained thespian and an actor on a stage, and can go learn the words and the script and deliver it in such a way that it's, you know, it just grips people. I respect that, and that's something special to that. What we did was totally an improv in the round, and we accomplished the same thing. And did it take different skills than what they, you know, have to implement? 100%. And some people never got it. I mean, some people were a good dance partner with somebody else that could kind of lead them through it, but they really couldn't do it on their own. And, you know, and that's the little weird nuances, because I feel like people like Randy Orton and Seth and Cody, and, you know, there's a, you know, a group of people within that nucleus that could work that style and do that.
Mm-hmm.
If that was something somebody said to do, they could do it tomorrow. There's some that would be like deer in the headlights, and what do you mean? We'll call it in the ring. You know,
Yeah.
No, you know, and you know, it just wouldn't be, you know, they'd be too much fish out of water. But again, the stylization that, you know, somebody becomes comfortable in, you've got to have people on point, and they have to be at an exact place and an exact time, so neither one of you get killed.
Right.
Because the things they're doing, you know, involves both people, you know, reacting to it. So it's you know, it's evolution. It's like I enjoy watching modern movies, and even the movies that I love so much back in the day, John Wayne and Clint Eastwood and Charles Bronson. They don't keep my interest anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I can't. They're not edgy. They don't. They need a, you know, they need a modern twist to them to get me to want to watch them. So, I'm a victim of it too. We're all spoiled by what, all the stuff we stream on our phones and in our homes and watch, and AI, things that can do the impossible. So, our expectation level is so high today. I think it would scare to death somebody like, somebody from back in the 50s and 60s, just looking at it and not being ingrained in it. It would be like they'd gone to another planet.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah. It's true. It's like, I think guys like Luthez or Bruno and things like that, I certainly think that they could fit in today's ecoscape, but you'd have to have the consideration of like, okay, they'd have to be modernized into the world that we are today, because like, Bruno, his fighting style was so different, and that WWE style back then was like punch
and kick.
like, punch
Punch and kick
to everything like that. So it's like, if he were to been put into the modern day, he would have been trained a certain different way and learned a certain different form. And like, plus you got to think about the cultural times that it was. Like, Bruno was a big, everyman, kind of identity, where he identified with a lot of ethnic backgrounds when it comes to like the Italian,
the dock workers, and
exactly. And
Yeah.
so like, that's why he was such a huge star too, in a lot of ways, was because of that. Now, could that transition in a different manner? I think so, but it would just be an interesting kind of thing to definitely look at. So, and Luthez obviously is such a
Lou
pro.
would have to be like Gunther.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say too, is like, if you want to look at somebody, look at Gunther right now, because that Luthez would fit that role too, or like a Cesaro or somebody in that there as well. Speaking of Gunther, we did get an official first WrestleMania match revealed. It is Gunther versus Jey Uso.
Jey Uso. Boy, I tell you, that was when that Jey Uso came out the other night, that crowd erupted.
Yes.
They went on for almost 10 minutes.
Right?
He stopped a couple times. He was out of breath, and more, they wanted more.
They did.
It was phenomenal. I mean, he has really captured the audience of professional wrestling. He's done a fantastic job. And I think he's going to have a heck of a match with Gunther in WrestleMania.
Yeah,
Gunther came in, and boy, he got so much heat. He destroyed him.
He did.
He's heavy-handed, boy.
Yeah.
He's like Magnum.
Dang. Yeah. What'd you think, Magnum? What do you think of that match?
I wish I could teleport myself back into 1986 so I could experience. There's so many of these guys I'd love to be able to be in the ring with, because
Me too.
That solid work is just, that's meat and potatoes, man. You can't say anything bad about it, because you're standing right there. You're 5 feet away, and you see the impact of what takes place, and that's what I was schooled on. That's what Eddie Graham ingrained in my brain, and Bill Watts, and make believers out of them. And it's
lay them in.
It's not for the faint of heart.
No, definitely not. So
that was Vern. Lay him in.
Lay him. Well, I tell you what, seeing Gunther laying those power bombs, I was like, holy smokes! Yeah, it was some good stuff, though. I'm excited.
Gunther, you could go in and have a match with him, old school match.
100%. You could.
Yeah. There's quite a few guys there you could.
Well, Magnum, we talked about it months ago when Gunther wrestled Cody at that Saudi Arabia show, and how that was like a really great kind of old school match.
Yeah, 100%. And it just shows you, I mean, they had him, he basically beat himself by getting him locked in the sleeper hold, and Cody rolled him back when he had his own hands locked and he couldn't let go. Right. And it was brilliant. And those things that make logical sense, people can't help but get pulled into it, because they're like in the struggle with them and go, oh my gosh, he can't get out of his own hold.
That's it. That's it. We'll take this question from last week. Mr. Jo actually, he reposted it again in the chat, so we'll use it right now. Did AWA and JCP have an Undertaker / Andre type of locker room leader? Greg, anybody in the AWA?
Who's JCP?
Jim Crockett Promotions.
Oh, so, Jim Crockett. I'm sorry. I thought it was some other league. I'm going AWA, NWA. Where did J? Was that a Japanese one?
That's Jim Cornette's new promotion.
What was the question?
A locker room leader.
What
did AWA have a locker room leader? Oh, there it is right here. Did AWA and JCP have an Undertaker, an Andre type locker room leader?
Oh God, not really.
No.
You know, it was a cohesive group, and everybody had input.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, everybody. We had one guy usually would deliver the matches.
Yeah.
Whether it was Bockwinkel or myself or Bobby Heenan, you know, people that knew what we wanted or what was wanted by the promotion.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody got along pretty good. I mean, once in a while, you always have somebody that, you know, you get a David Schultz in there or somebody like that. You got Mad Dog.
He's a wild card.
You're not sure what's going to happen when you talk to him. But all in all, it was pretty good. It was really a good group of people.
Good dynamic.
Yeah. You know, when you had that top talent, everybody was pretty good. There's a few guys that let their egos get in the way, but they were taken down pretty quick.
Yeah.
Filtered
out those type of guys.
Yeah, they were dropped down a notch really quick.
Real. Magnum, how about JCP? Did they have any locker room leaders?
Same thing. You know, I mean, I guess it would be, if you looked at it from perspective of the locker room. I mean, Flair was always with the heels. Dusty was always with the baby faces. Mm-hmm. Dusty was the team leader, period. I mean, he addressed everybody that, you know, in the group. But it was, you know, that respect thing of so many, you know, talented people that it was like a huge collaboration. So it wasn't like we had our, you know, our rookies and, you know, younger guys. Sam Houston, I remember when he came in and was getting started, and we kind of tried to nurture him along a little bit because he was just such a natural. Gosh, talking about a guy who was full of this natural charisma. You know, that was a real missed opportunity for the wrestling world. He could have, really, given the right opportunity, he was very, very entertaining.
Yeah.
He just never got quite cast correctly. But yeah, I would say, you know, Dusty and Rick were the two figureheads, and just from having you know, two world champions, were the biggest feuds, you know, of that era with each other. You know, they were pretty much the ringleaders.
They would, yeah. That's who I would. I definitely was assuming Dusty was probably one of them, you know, and yeah, it makes sense. Flair was for the heel locker room. Let's see. I want to make sure we get to some other questions here. We have this one's from ATF Media here, Greg. This one's for you. Why, when, and where did Greg transfer football teams in college? Did he have to sit out a year?
When did I? Or did I have to sit out a year? Yes, I did. I transferred from the University of Minnesota after my sophomore year, and went to the University of Wyoming, who had recruited me out of high school. But I had to sit out that first year, but I still had 2 years of eligibility.
Oh.
So, yeah. But that sitting out a year is not fun. You're at practice every day, and, you know, then the guys get to go to BYU or wherever they're going to play, Colorado State, and you're sitting home.
No, that's got to be rough.
Well, the other nice thing, when they were all gone, and you go down to the old Cowboy Bar down in Laramie, there's a lot of girls to pick from.
There you go. There you
all
go.
The other guys were gone, so it was pretty good.
Well, your fellow other Cowboy, Josh Allen, is the NFL MVP. So.
Yeah. You've done a great job, boy.
He's awesome. He definitely deserved it too, I think.
I was surprised that our coach from the Vikings got the Coach of the Year.
Me too. I was
He
surprised.
he did a great job. But, when you look at some of the other teams, Philly and Detroit,
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
where Detroit came from, they came from really nowhere and just dominated.
Yeah, crazy.
But, I called TA to see if he enjoyed the game the other day.
What'd you think, Magnum?
In the halftime show.
Oh yeah, I know. Getting a lot of talk that halftime show. I think I immediately thought of you guys when I watched it. I know they're loving this. They're tuning in just for the halftime show, Magnum and Greg.
Well, I told Greg my story, so I'll tell you guys. My daughter, who had watched one little teeny bit of the whole Super Bowl, says, "Who's in the halftime thing?" And I said, "Somebody I've never heard of." And so she comes in, she says, "Oh, I know him." And she sits down and sings every song, and I was like in this. My 17-year-old daughter is in a whole different zone.
I was doing that same thing.
Yeah, and the thing of it is I've been around lots and lots of different kinds of cultural performers and genres and whatnot, but I can't keep up with what they're saying.
Sure.
And I respect the talent that it takes to do that and be spot on and never miss a lick and dance and do all that stuff along with it. I mean, I get what a talented performer he is, but I'm just, and even what they call country today, Jabuzi or whoever, I mean, there's like infiltrating, different stylization, and I get it because there's obviously a lane for it, but I'm still old Hank Williams Jr. And Waylon Jennings kind of guy. So
not about it.
I called TA right away. I said, "What did you think?" I didn't understand a word they said. And then Stan Hansen called me the other day. Stan, how'd you like the Super Bowl? Super Bowl was great. And I said, "How about halftime?" Halftime, he went off.
Well, that's the thing too, Magnum. It's your point is great, spot on. I think because he's talented. I know who he is. I couldn't keep up with the lyrics. It's definitely like a talented thing, and I've listened to a couple of his songs and stuff before as well. But I think too, what the Super Bowl is like that fit a crowd, a particular type of crowd that would tune in and watch, a younger crowd. But when people are tuning into the Super Bowl, it's everybody watching the Super Bowl. So if you want to really get yourself out there to market to a huge audience, you have to cast a wide net. Kendrick Lamar is for a younger crowd that appreciates it and things like that. It's not for everybody. And, I think if I were the NFL, I'd be trying to think of a way, how can we incorporate the modern with the classic that everybody's familiar with? If you think of somebody like a Michael Jackson, everybody's familiar with Michael Jackson songs. Yeah. If you were playing the hits, everybody would be able to do it. But Magnum, you weren't able to get it. Greg, you weren't able to get it. I kind of got it, but then the younger audience got it. And it's
but even if they'd had
gearing it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if they just had, to your point, just somebody that crossed genre that could have interacted with them and they could have played off of, it would have pulled everybody in to be able to relate.
Sure,
a little bit better. But I mean, again, I sat back and took myself out of my head for a minute and said, "Wow, how does he remember?" Because a song is a story to me, and in the way that comes off is like the longest dialogue of all time. It is in rhythm and it's in tone, but it takes got to take a tremendous amount of talent.
I just want to hear Taylor Swift come out.
I know, right? That's
a whole nother subject.
What a heel turn that would have been for the crowd. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I mean, she's another talent though. I'm surprised they haven't tried to utilize her. Halftime. So, yes, absolutely. Let's take some more questions here. Greg, if you could have expanded the AWA further, what towns outside of the territory do you think would have drawn well that you guys didn't hit?
Well, I think anywhere you went, but Vern would never go into anybody else's territory.
Yeah.
He created new ones. We were from from Minneapolis to the West Coast. And we had, far east, we went Wisconsin, all of Wisconsin, Chicago, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Salt Lake City, Denver, Phoenix, Las Vegas, eventually LA, San Francisco. We didn't go into LA, we went to San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
After Roy Shire was out of there, Ray Stevens got that set up. So we had it, and then across Canada, we were on there was a TSN up there, and it went across Canada. So our main one was Winnipeg, but it was so popular in Winnipeg that they picked it up and went all across Canada. Wow. I mean, I went up to Montreal for a match, and I thought, Jesus Christ, they're not going to know me for a bale of hay. And man, it got a heck of an ovation. I mean, I didn't realize that our TV was in there, and they were picking it up. And Gagne being French, it kind of, it worked.
Played into it.
Yeah. In fact, in this book, the Vern Gagne book.
Yes.
Inside and Outside the Ropes with Vern.
Here, do you have it? Pull it up if you have it.
Yeah, and they had the guy did a good job. He went back our ancestry. That's hard to see, isn't it?
Vern, Inside and Outside the Ropes.
And he went back to our heritage, 13 generations back to France, to like 1500 something.
Dang.
Yeah. So it was really, I got a good education through it. He did a good job on that. Some of the other parts near the end, I wasn't real fond of. Get it right. But, he did the best he could. And it's a good book. And it tells how he grew up. He had a rough life growing up. Lost his mother young, and his dad didn't do much, just wanted him to work the farm. And he wanted to wrestle. And he wrestled. He ran to school probably 20 miles. Wow. He'd go to school every day from where he lived.
20 miles.
Yeah, when he was in high school. And he said he used to run 10 yards and then walk 10 yards and 10 yards and all the way. And a lot of times then then after school, he played football and he wrestled, and wrestling was his deal. And a lot of times some of the coaches there, that would have him stay overnight at their house just to help him out, because get home and there was no food. And, he had a tough upbringing. Man. But, he was self-made, really.
Truly,
and, he had his way of doing things, and you did it that way, or hit the bricks, bud.
Hit the bricks, or run 20 miles and go to school.
Yeah, but as in the wrestling, though, he was really good with all the talent.
Yeah.
They respected him, and he always made the calls. He had Nick and myself and a couple other people that when we went to the arenas and he wasn't there, then we would deliver, what was going on.
What was happening, yeah.
But no, he was a heck of a guy. He really was.
Yeah, Vern
I don't think he sometimes doesn't get the credit that he deserves, because when you read this book, in the 50s, I told you, in the mid-50s, he was more popular than Mickey Mantle and, that whole crew.
Yeah.
In fact, the first time my dad, when the Twins came, he took me to a game because Mickey Mantle was my idol.
Yeah.
When the Yankees were in town, he takes me, and after we go into the locker room, and Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, Whitey Ford, Elston Howard, they all come running up to my dad. He's like, and I'm going, what the hell? I'm there to meet Mickey Mantle, and these guys are all over my dad.
That's awesome.
I think that's the first time it really dawned on me that the impact he had, not just in rugby, but nationally.
Yeah.
And it all went back to when the 50s, when he went on TV, and he became that first major big star there.
Man, yeah. Well, guys, if you're interested, you can get that book on Amazon. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. You can get it at Lulu. What was it?
Lulu Press.
Lulu Press.
Kobo Rakuten.
Cool. So I'll post
It's all online. You have to go online to get it. And
I'll share some links in the clips that we do on YouTube. I'll do it for the episode here that you can click on and go and buy that book and check it out. Because
I'm sending you both one. I got 20 coming.
All right.
Don't burn it.
No. Yeah. I don't burn no books. Hey, Speaking of Philly, though, we had a Philly question for Magnum here. Let's see. Philly winning the Super Bowl is what I meant. Where's it at? Here we go. Pez asks, does Magnum have any fond memories or stories of wrestling at the Philadelphia Civic Center?
Well, every time we were in Philadelphia, it was amazing because they were some of the most electric fans of all time. But one of the funniest things that I've ever seen in my life, when we very first went to Philly before we got on TBS and we like popped it. It was kind of mediocre crowd, and we were staying at some hotel right across the street or something. I mean, close. And so Flair and I and Dusty and Ricky Steamboat were all in the bar. And when I first came into the territory, Rick was a babyface. He hadn't turned heel yet. So we're all together, and it's no big deal. And of course, Rick is being Rick and making making a party out of a very few people. There might have been 5 other people in this place when we walked in, and it turned into a zoo before we left. But the funniest thing was it's snowing just horrible, and everybody's hungry. So we get these cabs, and we get them to take us to some diner. And it was out by the airport or something. But somehow in the midst of all this, I saw Rick, and he picked up his fork, and he had eggs on the end of it. He's going, and he went, boop, and he flips eggs over, and he hit Ricky or something. Next thing you know, this food fight is going on, and it's a spectacle, and we're not in real good shape anyway. And somehow we were able to get back in the cab and go to the bar. But the punchline was Rick had to go. He was leaving for Japan the next morning. So we all come dragging the airport, just looking really, really rough. We thought we looked rough until we saw Rick. And he's got his coat and his towel, and he's got egg yolk dripped down the lapel. And I said, oh my gosh, to be the man, you really got to beat the man. Because he took a licking and kept on ticking, man. He was ready, getting on that plane, going ready to fly around the world, go do it again.
Oh my gosh.
But Philly was a hot spot. I mean, when it got on fire in that Civic Center, that building would hold, I don't know, 8,000-10,000 people. And it was so electric. When Tully and I took the I Quit match kind of on tour around, we fought all over that building. Those people, I mean, they love violence. Same thing with Nikita and all the rounds for the U.S. title. I mean, they like to see a good fight, and they loved it when you were out there on the floor. You're right there in between them because again, it was all snug and there was blood and sweat flying, and they like being right in the middle of it.
I love Philly. I lived there 5 years. Such a wild town, but the fans are passionate, whether they're wrestling fans or sports fans, obviously. And it's such a great city. It's crazy, but I like the crazy. So it's a big.
Somebody from Philly shut my computer off when I was.
That's what it was.
No, we got this MediaCom out here, and our TV goes down, our internet goes down. So I missed the story, but no, Philly, those people are great wrestling, great fans of all sports.
Absolutely.
Really yeah.
Well, Greg, the topic was a food fight. Did you ever get into a food fight with wrestlers?
Food fight with wrestlers?
Yes.
Not that I can remember.
No.
But I don't remember what I did. I got in a fight with Laura, I know, yesterday, and maybe see if she comes back. That was my food fight.
Well, hey, we'll close it out with this one. I want to make sure. Yes. Logan, he always asks the Powertown question, so this seems like a good one to ask. Magnum, Greg, what's your vision for Powertown in 2025?
Go ahead, Magnum. You've been hanging up.
I'm going to sit back. I was going to sit back and let you philosophize.
You want to see what I said?
Yeah, see what you're
be big in 2025. Get ready. We're going to knock the.
No, my vision, honestly, the vision for 25 is to implement from the lessons learned some internal process improvement to enable us to get ahead of the curve and develop and make product so far in advance that the wait times for figures will be cut down to like 45 to 60 days, if not have things made that nobody knows about until we make them.
Yeah.
And just have we make X number of them, and you get them or they're gone, and that kind of thing. Because we have such a huge roster of folks, but it takes multiple different stylizations and lines to be able to serve all those people, because the development process for our ultras is just so painstakingly long. There's just no way to get around it. It's like if you're gonna have a baby, it's gonna take 9 months. But if you're gonna make a figure from scratch, it's gonna take 9 months. It is what it is. It doesn't matter whether you're Mattel or Jazzware, whoever you are. Everybody has to go through the same process. There's design, there's approvals, there's cutting steel, there's doing things that just takes time. And oh, by the way, it's all in Asia. So if there was some way to get it done domestically, you would cut probably a month and a half, 2 months out of that cycle. We actually had things landed in LA that came off a boat, and it took it as long to get from LA to Alabama as it took to get from China to LA on a boat.
That's crazy.
And it makes you just want to strangle somebody, which I don't want to feel that way about anybody, but it will really test you.
Makes you want to get him in an I Quit match at the very least.
Well, if I realized that was going to be my only time in life to really be able to blow off steam effectively, I'd probably been a little stiffer.
That's a little bit more. If we knew what past Magnum knew what current Magnum was going through, he would be channeling that in many different. He might not have as many friends in the wrestling business if that was the case.
That's true.
Dang it! I hope Greg tunes back in real quick because I wanted to ask one final cool question. But Magnum, any other updates on the Powertown front that you want to give before we?
Just that we've delivered all the Myers and Cardona figures. They've all left our warehouse and have been shipped out, and so those will be getting in people's hands shortly that had ordered them and may not have received them yet. And the Remcos are in the cycle of trying to get to us, so they will be next, followed by the TNA product, and of course behind that will be Ultras too. But we've got 3 different new things that are all literally within weeks of being able to showcase and start showing people. So I feel like we'll have something new to show people here by the end of the month.
I'm back.
Awesome. Greg's back. Well,
This
cool.
fucking MediaCom here.
Well, keep your eyes on Powertown, guys.
Are we still on?
Yeah, that's okay. We're still on.
Sorry.
I did want to close with this question. People were talking about the halftime show in the chat, so I wanted to pitch this question to you guys. This is what we'll close out on. Anybody, any band, any act, anything like that, living or dead, you could pick for your halftime show for Super Bowl. Who would it be? Greg, let's start with you.
Ooh.
Who would your halftime show?
I like Bob Seger myself.
Ooh, that's a great one.
A little old time rock and roll, baby.
That's a great one. I like that one.
Take the old records off the shelf.
Heck yeah, I like it.
Listen to him by herself.
I
think his music ain't got the same soul, baby.
He's
like that old time rock and roll.
He's got the hits too to play. Night Moves, Hollywood Nights, so many. Still the same. Magnum, how about you?
I would. I'd like to see somebody like Garth Brooks.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, real showman. Makes things spectacular. Got enough hits that he can do the set and keep things jazzed up. But somebody like that in their prime when their music was mainstream, something like that would be exciting halftime.
That would be a good one.
I'm going Rat Pack, Sammy, Dean, and Frank.
Ooh.
They could tear something down there. So that would be my 3.
There you go.
All right.
On stage, you've worked miracles.
That's right. That would be something.
It really would.
All right. This was something. We did a great show here. We covered a lot of great ground on here. Guys, be sure to.
Are we out of time? We're out of time.
It's
one quick one because I didn't get
I'll go for it. Yeah. What do you got?
The Rey Mysterio and
oh my gosh. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Mm-hmm.
Jesus. I thought that was a phenomenal match. Didn't you?
You already know what I think.
Well, explain that.
I thought it was an excellent match. I don't understand
the end of it.
I don't understand why it concluded exactly like it did. I don't think there's anything wrong with anybody ever doing the favor. And I know that they're pushing Logan hard, and I know Rey Mysterio is there to do business. Just to me, Logan is such a strong heel in that lane and embracing it that they didn't give him something just to be dastardly to where he got the advantage to get the shot, to get the deal.
But for as short a time as he's been in, he's a heck of a performer.
Yeah. But again, everything you do when you use an asset as big as Rey Mysterio, you want something that's really going to elevate. That win's really going to elevate the heat, what you're projecting for that character. And to me, it just was like,
Yeah.
I almost thought something went wrong. Like he was supposed to have a gimmick, or he's supposed to have something that, like he had done, countless times before when he's using the brass knucks and all the things he had. Not that he didn't look like, that he's obviously a bigger, stronger athlete, but Rey's, he's wrestled everybody. He wrestled Batista when Batista was probably 300 pounds.
Right.
And got the advantage over him. So it wasn't that. It just, to me, the storytelling of the match was so good. Yeah. The conclusion left me a little flat.
Yeah, they needed to have some heat there.
Right. I'm 100% with you, Magnum, too, because I love the match. I thought the match was great, and I think that the dynamic between those two guys, Rey being such a great, one of the top baby faces of all time, and then Logan just being an organic heel, and them to interact off one another, and like from a selling standpoint and everything like that. I just thought that it was such a wonderful match. The finish, though, it's like, man, having Rey lose clean, and I know they put him in that position here at what he's been doing at this point in his career, but I think it's like, if you're going to do that, make it on a real big stage where it's just like, oh, that's really packs a punch. It packs a punch in a certain way, but it's Raw on Netflix. I just think they should have kind of protected Rey a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's all. But nothing to do with either one of the performers. The performance was 5 stars. Fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
To your point, I don't know of anybody that's burst on the scene like him, speaking of Logan, and showed the maturity in the ring that he shows. I mean, it looks like he's been doing it for 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And obviously he has not. So there's some talent in that gene pool somewhere that's, amazing. And he's obviously gotten to love it because he doesn't need the money.
Right.
He doesn't need that to be successful, but he's really.
Well, we do. Maybe we should call him.
Let's get him on.
You need money? Greg Gagne.
Yeah,
right.
No.
Yeah.
What are you, addicted to eating or something? You want to buy groceries?
I can't write any more checks. I can tell you that. I
like it.
You can, but they might not come back. They might have a little bit of rubber to them.
Take this card. Take this card.
Hey guys, if you want to write some checks, write it to 1tsport.com and check out some of the merchandise we got for Greg and Magnum. We got some good stuff here. The hoodies, it's still cold. It's cold up in Minnesota right now. -2 degrees. Get the High Flyer hoodie, Greg Gagne, and get a coffee mug too, and stay warm up there. You can stay cool and dry in this Magnum TA hoodie. You can go to 1tsport.com, get a mug, get plenty of merchandise there. There's plenty of other merchandise. We got a Magnum and Greg here, like this T-shirt as well, dressed like a champion. And we got some Magnum and Nikita merchandise too. You can check out. It's all there. 1tsport.com. Support the show and get the brand. Greg, Hollywood's calling you. And we'll be calling you guys next week here on Straight Talk with the Boss. Magnum TA and Greg Gagne. We'll see you next week here.
All right. See you later. Sorry, guys.
He's not taking this call, guys.